follow what that inner voice is telling you. And do not be afraid to step into what you feel that inner voice is saying. Just on the other side of fear is everything that you're looking for. You know, the joy that you'll get from whatever that is that's like just tugging at your heartstrings on the internal you. Follow that. You know, and it's not necessarily always going to be something that is going to bring you some monetary value. It could be something as simple as how, you know, I don't feel right wearing this style of clothing. I feel more happy when I got my Vegas jacket on, right? On you know, it looks good. You know, and so be your authentic you. I feel like now in my life where I'm at now, I can actually be Ron P, right? Stepping into doing what I'm doing now, I actually get to be me, man, full time. You know, I'm not splitting my time with firefighter Ron P and business Ron P. I'm just Ron P now, you know, so listen to that inner you. Yeah.
I think the thing that with you start this thing, man, I mean, the moment you asked me in Houston, what does it take to get on your podcast? I love that at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And then the moment that you started to tell me your story, I was like, oh yeah, well, I didn't know any of that. So 2 things were working. One, you asked. I love that. Second thing was you had a great story. And I'm like, oh man, this is getting good and good. So I told you I have to get excited about talking to people.
Yeah, I remember.
And if I'm not excited or I can't find something in it, I'm like, yeah, just come and bore me, man. In my own show, it could be a good one. So listen, man, it's been 2 weeks.
A little close to 2 weeks.
Just 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And you were here in
man.
Vegas. You flew to Vegas, man.
Yeah.
You're even bigger than doing it virtually. And I said, nah, let's fly to Vegas. And you got the wife here.
Of
Look
course.
at that. Isn't that exciting?
Hey, man, that's Oz behind the curtain.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm the face, but that's Oz.
Hey, man. Hey, with every great man is an even greater woman.
Man. Pushing behind him.
You're dang
that
right.
is a fact.
You're dang
that's
right. I heard way too many war stories where it was the opposite. And fortunately for us, we're not those guys, man.
No, sir.
So let's do this, man. I always like to jumpstart these things with, I'm sure you probably have heard this before because you listened to a couple, your story, man. Like, bring us up to speed. Get us through the days, you know, the journey of, and again, you can take as long as you want on this part, or you can take as short as you want. And then once I start to hear some nuggets and some goodies, I'll start to pick them all out and have some fun with them. But if you want to start from the moment you were born and you want to tell the best story of your life and what mama was like to you and papa was like to you and all these other good things, that's great.
Yeah,
but if you want to start here or there, it doesn't matter, man. But just bring us up to this point today.
To where we're at today.
Get us up to the rate.
Well, cool, man. I mean, first off, I'll tell everybody my name is Ronald Patterson, but I go by Ron P.
Well, yes, but I do that before, man.
You know.
See, that's part of the pre-production, brother. That's what I do,
mean, you know,
man.
I know how you introduced your guy, you know, so I want to make sure everybody knows.
That's a pre-production,
everybody knows
brother.
who this good-looking face is across the other good-looking face,
man.
you know?
I got you.
But yeah, man, how this journey started for me, I started off as a firefighter. I've been a firefighter for a little over 19 years. And throughout that journey, I get to marry my beautiful wife. And I had a goal of having her stay at home and raise our kids. And so I had this bright idea. I was like, you know what? I come from a family of entrepreneurs. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a food truck. And I told Sherry, I'm going to start a food truck. She's like, why do you want to do that? I was like, because I think it'd be cool. Like, and she's like, well, what kind of menu you going to have? I'm going to do barbecue. She's like, oh, brother, you know? She's like, you don't even cook barbecue, right? But I have a brother-in-law that taught me how to cook some barbecue. And it started at the firehouse, cooking for the guys, you know, burning up some meat left and right until I actually started getting good, you know. And the food truck scene came on. My parents helped me get my first food truck. My dad and I built it out, you know, that cool experience with your dad, right? Yeah. So that truck, I don't think I would ever sell it. Even though I don't use it now much.
It means something.
It means something because my dad and I built that thing, right? And so, yeah, we went out our first time and we did our friend's wedding. We were the after dinner meal. And he doesn't know this, but he's going to find out after watching this. I felt like we bombed it, man. Like, but the people loved it. But that's a good thing about, you know, little libations. People would get loose and food tastes good, even though I felt like it was a utter disaster behind that trailer, man. Lights wouldn't stay on. I had this too small of a generator, but people loved it. And so I was like, hey, man, maybe we have something here. Then we go out and we start selling to people. When I made my first $200 on my food truck that I created, right? that you couldn't tell me I wasn't rich. Like that was the best feeling in the world because somebody's paying me for something that I cooked up in my backyard, you know, starting off with. And, you know, fast forward into today, here we are 10 years later.
Wow.
And now we have 2 food trucks. We have a venue. We do catering. Catering's our biggest thing that we do. And yeah, man, I mean, like I said, the journey started as a firefighter to where we're at today, where we're cooking and rolling,
I love
you
it,
know,
man.
in the streets of San Antonio, man. Literally.
Rolling.
I was just rolling yesterday,
funny,
man.
I love that. Yeah. I'm going to jump into that in some more detail there because I do have some questions. But I think, you know, what I found partly fascinating, and I say partly because there's a lot of neat things that you said to me previously, besides just liking your spirit, which was the firefighter part, right? 19 years. And I find this, in a world we're living in today, the transition from getting a pretty steady, and you're part of the government, right? As a firefighter?
So local government,
Local government.
So
you got the government favor. You're working for the government. You probably got good
benefits,
packages,
all that stuff.
All the benefits.
Yeah.
And then you say, you know what? At some point, hey, I'm ready to make a shift.
Yeah.
I'm going to go try this business thing.
Yeah.
I think the mentality of that, right? So if you could speak to anybody out there that's thinking or listening that would be considering or attempting to try to make that adjustment or that pivot, it doesn't have to be the, silver bullet per se, because I don't think any of us have a silver bullet, but it's, what was your experience with that? How did you change from the employee working for someone, getting a steady paycheck, to taking the chance? And if you say, hey man, I was still getting government, I was still getting paid by the firefighting department, then okay, let's tell us the truth there. But I'm very curious how you transitioned there, because I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah.
Including myself for a long time, realizing, hey, how hard it is to just
to do this,
to separate from a steady thing and to jump into this world where you're a bit crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So for you, fill us in on that, man. I think you're going to probably have some good ones around
So
that.
to all the listeners out there, I'll tell you, first and foremost, it's not easy. Everybody on all the internet channels and all that good stuff make it look so glamorous, like it's easy. I literally just retired from being a firefighter. I was doing both for a little over a decade.
Wow.
It was tough, very tough. And throughout that journey, there's a lot of days of questioning. Like, is this the right thing, or should I stay with the for sure thing, right? Because I know every time I show up on shift at the firehouse, I'm going to get a paycheck here in 2 weeks.
Right.
In the world of entrepreneurship, I got to go out and, what I always say, like, we got to go out and hunt, right? Because we have to find the next job. It's always the next job. But because I'm a big believer in Christ, that's what led me to doing this full time. I have a big belief that God will always take care of us.
Oh, wow.
Right. And it took me years to get to this point, to be able to, quote unquote, take the leap. A lot of people like to say, I'm going to jump out on faith. No, I'm actually stepping into faith, because I believe in God's word that much, and it's held true. And I don't know if you know. So the name of my company is Goshen Point Barbecue, right? And I'm going to give you a quick backstory, because this is all part of it. Goshen comes from the Bible. It's in the book of Genesis. During the times of the famine in Egypt, the land of Goshen, everything that went to the land of Goshen was all plentiful, all thriving. So when I read that, I was like, that's going to be my name, right? Because no matter what's going on around us, we're always going to be plentiful, right? And so if I'm truly going to live into that the name of Goshen, then I got to be able to step into that faith and do what we do as barbecue caterers,
Right.
But making that transition was not easy. But now that I have stepped all the way into it, it's easier. It's one of those deals, like, you look back and like,
why was I so scared?
What was I so scared of? We always have this fear. And I heard that the acronym of fear is false evidence appearing real. And that's so true. It's false evidence appearing real. Once I stepped into this, it's like, man, all the fear and everything that you thought of, that, oh man, I don't know if I should do it. And then all the people telling you, no, step back, don't do it. Why would you leave that job? That's a good job, That job's going to pay you. Well, so was the thing that God is leading me to do. I've come from a family of servers. My dad's a military. My grandfather was a chef. I'm a firefighter. My sister's a cop. And so all I'm doing is transitioning from serving people, from taking them from a burning building, or from their house to the ER. Now I'm just serving them in a different way. I'm serving them with food, with love that way, and getting them to tell them about God's goodness.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great, man. So you were based in a faith because you were raised around that type of...
I was raised around that. Yeah.
Okay.
I was raised around Christianity, you know. I wouldn't always say that I followed it so strongly, but, you know, as a older man, you start to, and I'm not older, but, you know, as you get older, shall I
feel
say.
older now.
I feel older sometimes. Like every time you see the young, especially at the firehouse, man, when you see the young guys coming in, they let you know you're an old guy. Yeah. And I'm only 42.
I'm getting old, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, crazy.
And I don't know, man. I just had this realization back when I turned 38 that, man, life is short. And it's too short to not do what you want to do. Mm-hmm. As far as we know, we only live this life one time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to go all in. I want to put all the chips in and let's see where they fall, you know? And so I've been doing it.
Amen, man. Fantastic. So obviously you had a lot of courage to fight fires, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Lee, I guess I want to arouse the listeners because I think there's probably some war stories that could be shared that are like you were telling me that night at dinner. It was fascinating what you're sharing with me about the heat. If it's too hot, it burns you, and it's like this explosion coming off a wall. I'm like, I never heard of this stuff before, right? I'm like, this is crazy. And you know, obviously, I want you to share some of that, and kind of tell us some things around that. But I want to figure out how that's translated for you from fighting fires from a courageous standpoint to going out there, even in your faith, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe meeting some things that you had a hard time, you know, stepping up to just because, you know, again, it's entrepreneurship, you know. You have any recollections of those sort of encounters per se that you pulled your firefighter's courageousness and just went in and conquered some stuff?
Without a doubt, man. I'm going to tell you about a job that we took on that I think we weren't even ready for, right? And this is where I pulled into my firefighting courageousness. As a firefighter, we always would say you adapt and overcome, right? So I take that to heart. So now transition into my business, there was this job that we were going to do for 800 people, right? We have never done that amount at that time. And I told my wife, I was like, we're going to do this. She's like, you're crazy, Mr. Patterson. So that's how I know I'm in trouble. When she says Mr. Patterson, I'm in trouble, right? She's like, you're crazy, Mr. Patterson. But I was like, we're going to do it. I was like, we're going to adapt and we're going to overcome this, right? All we're going to do is figure out, okay, if we can do 100, now let's multiply that by 8. Let's figure out what that is, and you're going to multiply that by 8, and let's make this happen. I mean, things didn't go perfect. You know, you have certain heaters not staying hot, so now you got to adapt and overcome to move food around from this heater to that heater. You have people that don't show up. So again, you got to adapt and overcome. As a firefighter, we've always do that. You go in with a plan, but that plan's going to change. But as long as you go in with a plan, you have a steady base to go off of. And then when you need to transition into something else, you'll adapt and overcome.
How do they teach you that? Because you go through training. I'm sure there's a lot of rigor in conditioning you to be prepared for that. Give me an example of and see, this is why I love. This is why I love talking to people that are military, really military athletics. They're part of programs and systems that have tremendous value universally that work, right? You know, you go into the police force, you go through an academy that probably puts you through hell, right? You go to the firefighting world, you probably get put through the same thing. You know, you got to go test yourself out. Are you capable? Do you want to hang in here, right? So how did they teach you all these things? And what are some other ones that they may have embedded into you that made you capable to fight fires and put yourself and your life at risk? And I mean, obviously a lot of other things too, every single day. But it's almost like if it becomes you, and those things aren't as important in terms of fears or worries or stuff like that.
No, they're not, because the job has to be done, right?
Oh, yeah, see, that's right.
The job has to be done. Us as firefighters, cops, police, military personnel, you have to be a little different. And what I mean by that is that you have people that are running out, you have to go run in, right? But you stay focused on the task at hand, because if not you, then who, right? The things that we went through when we were in training, we used to show up and you had to always do things in pairs. And I transitioned this into my business as well. It's called a 2-man in, 2-man out rule. So you always have to have a buddy in everything that you do. Because if somebody goes down, you need somebody to get that guy out or girl out, or somebody to come out to let them know, hey, Ron just went down. We were over here. We did a left-hand search pattern. This is where we can find him. We need help, right? And so from day one in the fire academy, they deeply embed that into your brain. If you're running and your partner's behind you and you're not waiting on them, guess what? Drop down, give me 15.
So there's a consequence right there.
That's how they deeply ingrain that into you. There's consequences with leaving that guy behind, because our chief at the time, Chief Hood, he believed in a round trip ticket is what he called it. Right, you're going to come to work and you're going to get to go back home. Right, so when they embed that into you, you got to make sure that that partner, that's your partner, your accountability buddy, you can't leave that person behind, because then how are they going to get their round trip ticket?
Oh
right?
Man, that'll put you right close to it.
Yeah,
Man,
and so
you can't let that family.
You can't
down,
let that
down,
because
man.
now you're going to have to be the person to talk to that family member. Like, I left them.
Yeah. Oh.
And imagine feeling that. Like, just saying that right there made me feel chills in my body. Totally. Right? Because I've been in some hairy situations in fires where, hey man, things could have went the other way, but thankfully they didn't. Right? But having the crew that I had, I didn't never have to worry about getting left behind. You know. But yeah, in the fire academy, you always got to show up with your partner. You do everything in twos. If you're going to the restroom, we're going to the restroom. Everything.
You're talking about like from the moment
moment you step out of your truck or car, whatever you drive to get to work, as soon as you pull up, you better not exit that car unless you see your partner.
Wow.
And once you see your partner, you wait till y'all get up, paired up, and then you proceed to go inside of the building.
That's fascinating. And how long did they put you through that training?
So that training is about 6 or 7 months.
Oh, wow.
And throughout this whole duration, there's always consequences for you, because you're going to slip up, right?
Yeah, totally.
Because the mind, you're not created to like, oh yeah, I got to take my partner. I'm trying to do this.
Right.
I'm just trying to get through this workout, or I'm just trying to get through this test, right? But they embed that into you because it transitions once you get out in the field.
When it gets really pressured.
Where it gets really pressured.
Like you're really in the fight now.
Oh, yeah.
There's a fire.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, outside of just the fire, we deal with people, right? 911 calls
that's true.
for EMS. And so
yeah.
having to be able to handle situations like that, because you got to remember, we're going into environments that aren't ours. I don't know what your house looks like. You know, there's a lot of people that are on drugs or things like that, alcohol abuse or whatever. And so when you step into their environment because they're calling for somebody else, you got to make sure you have a partner, because you can get trapped. You know, I've had times where people tried to stab me with a heroin needle, you know, people pulling knives on you.
Wow.
Yeah. So
yeah.
that stuff gets deeply embedded into you in the training academy, to have your partner with you.
See, I knew you would light us up, pun intended, right? You'd fire us up with that right there. I mean, that's just gold. That is so gold. See, even for me, man. I mean, that. Okay, so I want you to expand on some more. Maybe if you've got some, I'm sure you got a lot of extra applications of the training and sort of what went on in the fire academy.
Sure.
But because you said you pull a lot of that into what you do now.
Yes.
So my question is now, are you going into business where you have a partner, or like there's somebody with you that goes into business? Is that kind of the idea now? Or
you know what?
How do you bring that to today?
So as far as the business is concerned, having a partner would be my wife. That's my partner, right? But how I translate that into my business is everyone that works with us, we always got to be in twos, because we go to a lot of different areas, right? We're based in San Antonio, but we travel to a little town that's about an hour and a half from where we're at. So, hey, you got to have at least two people that you're with. So just in case, you know, you may have a mishaps with the vehicle. So now you have somebody to help you change the tire or whatever. Or once you get to a place that you're not used to, hey, if something happened, you have that secondary person to call, myself or my wife, like, hey, such and such, right? Yeah, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love it, man. So the thought is you shared some fascinating, I think a good mixture of you know, I don't want to say it's entertainment, but it's kind of that version of, it's like, you know, you watch something crazy on TV because it's striking and it catches your eye, like, well, I'm fascinated by this, right? So when I talked to you that night in Houston, you were sharing with me some of these, you know, fire stories. And I was like, dude, I was glued to you. So share some of that stuff, because I don't think people really realize like what goes on in those types of environments like that. Like you were sharing with me, where you're in a building and you've got protocols, you've got objectives, you've got real obviously heated conditions. And as a result of that, you said that these, you're prepared and, your neck starts burning and all these little different nuances. And I'm thinking, this is fascinating, man.
Yeah.
Like this is wild stuff. This is another world.
Yeah. So like, I'll just take you from the time the call drops to the time we're in the building.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's hear it.
So, man, you could be at the firehouse doing what we're doing right now. Man, we're laughing, joking, having fun, whatever. Right. And then the drop of a dime, boom, things switch. Right. You get that tone drop, and there's different tones at the firehouse to where it's either an EMS call or let's just say a fire alarm to a fire. Right.
So EMS, fire alarm, fire.
Right.
EMS is more paramedic.
Just a regular, yeah. Well, we'll go on those as well, but the paramedics will take the lead on that one,
Okay.
right? So when you get an EMS call, it's like, okay, yeah, we're going to help the medics. No big deal. But when that tone drops for a fire, your heart starts racing. So imagine like you're getting ready for a big game, or if you've ever played sports, those butterflies feel?
Oh, yeah.
That's what it feels like. And it hits you instantaneously. You could be in a dead sleep. Right, because fire doesn't have no laws of when that comes in, right? So you could be in the dead sleep, boom, now you're up, now you're wide awake. Okay, man, I gotta hurry up and get down to the truck. So as you're throwing on your gear, so what I was telling you when we're in Houston, the weak part of our gear is our sock hood, and there's a reason for that. So when you're in a fire, right, that gear can only withstand so much heat. But if all my gear was the same and not have that sock hood, I would not know that I was in danger. Without having the sock hood. The sock hood allows me to know if I start to feel some tinge and heat on my ears, hey man, this fire is really hot.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of my gear, it makes you feel like you're Batman or Superman, right? You're like, I'm impenetrable. I can do anything, right? And that's kind of us as firefighters. We feel you can handle anything. But having that, somebody had the wherewithal to think, hey man, we need something. So these different guys, hey man, give you a little indicator. Hey, we got to back out. All right. And I've been in fires where you see and you look around, there's fire all around you. It's fascinating.
Right.
It's fascinating, right? But then you start to remember, hey, I'm here to do a job.
This is cool, man.
Yeah, this is cool, man. Like, I'm here to do a job. So you start putting the fire out, right? And then you back out if need be, if it gets too hot. I want to tell a quick story about my first time as a firefighter in San Antonio. So I came from a city called Kingsville, Texas. Small city. We only had 2 stations, right? I was there for 5 years. And then I came up to the big leagues of San Antonio Fire Department, right? And when I got up there, my very first time on shift, and I get that tone that dropped. And there's this little pop that you could hear before the tone that will actually drop, woke me up out of a dead sleep, right? I get him. I'm an eager rookie, man. Hurry up, get to the truck. You get your gear on, and then we get on scene, and it's in a strip mall, and you see fire going everywhere, right? And I was with this gentleman named Will, and so we go in, and he's letting me hold the nozzle. Like that's, as a firefighter, that's where you want to be. Mm-hmm. If you're a guy that fights fire, you want to be on the nozzle because that's where the glory is at, right? You're the guy putting the fire out. So we're in there, and I'm just like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, mesmerized by the fire, right? And all this fire's everywhere. He's like, hey, man, like, come on, we got to work. So we put the fire out, whatever. And as we're starting to exit the building, I come out, and I was dumbfounded because I see all of these different trucks. You see ambulances, you see chief's cars. And I was like, I asked Will, I was like, hey, man, like, well, what just happened while we're in there? He's like, well, what do you mean? Like, well, why are all these different apparatus here? He says, that's normal here in San Antonio. And I was just like, I'm in the big leagues.
Yeah, because it wasn't like that.
It wasn't like that.
In
Kingsville, you have one truck, 2. That's it.
Yeah. It's just protocol.
There was no cavalry coming. You are the cavalry.
Right.
And then once they get to San Antonio, we had the cavalry coming to back you up, which I thought was awesome, man.
That's awesome.
That was awesome, man.
How do they get you prepared physically for that? What's the because you 2 man together, that makes a lot of sense, man. Mm-hmm. I think that's brilliant. How does the other mental and physical part take place in that? Are they putting you in rooms and testing your minds, or are they putting you through a hell training?
It's a hell training
for football type of thing.
Exactly, but it's more like for 4 to 6 months.
Right.
Like at the time, it was very rigorous, the training, to where we had a certain captain, and I won't mention no names, right? So we had a certain captain, but he prepared us. It's kind of like the kid, right? As parents, you're a father, right? Mm-hmm. You can see the future for your child, and it's our duty to ensure that we lead him down this path. Well, that's what this captain would do, but he would make it to where you didn't like him, right? He would hide in places. If you didn't say good morning, guess what? Drop down and give me 15.
Really?
And what I realized after the fact, he was teaching us how to be aware of our surroundings and what we call in the fire department situational awareness. So you look in the room, right? You're looking around so you can see, is there any threats in this room? Where's my exits? Like the room we're in right now. I only got one exit behind me. The door's over here. I didn't check the rest of the building to see if there's an actual exit on the backside, right? But this is what I learned from the captain without him saying these things, right? That's how they get you mentally prepared for it. And then you physically work out. We worked out all day, every day. There was multiple workouts that had at a minimum of 3.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
From the time you show up with your partner, there's going to be a reason why you're going to hit the floor and do some working out, right? Till the morning workout to the afternoon workout, But it did get you ready, mentally prepared for things that you're going to face once you get out in the streets. He would always say, hey, if you ring this bell, and there was this big shiny bell, if you want to quit, go ahead, ring this bell. I'll get you a steak dinner and we'll get you an application of wherever you will go. Wow. And at the time, I thought he was just being an asshole. But the psychological aspect of it was to make you see how far can you push yourself, right? Because the mind is big and telling you want to quit because it's not normal, right? Your body wants you to keep you safe.
Right.
And so when you're getting put under this physical stress, mental stress, it's like, man, the hell with this. I'm done. I want to go home, but you can't.
Right.
Because once you're out in the streets and you're in a fire and there's somebody that needs to be rescued in this fire, you're going to have to find somewhere internally to dig deep to go save this person. Because again, it's not normal to go in a building that is blazing.
Right.
And so that training got us prepared for what you really face out in the real world.
I love this already, man. What did you learn? What did you learn about all the boys or the gals that were in that department, man? Were you guys all fucked up in the head to some extent? And like sitting around talking about, hey man, we're whack jobs, man. I don't know, nobody's crazy enough to do this. You understand my question a little bit? Like the commonalities, it's like, certain people come from certain things and, they want to go out there and find their purpose in life or be a part of something special because they came from the hood or something like that, or it could be a variety of different things, right? But so, those conversations that you all have, it's like, hey man, I just want to save the world. Like I want to be the hero. I mean, what's that dialogue going on? Is there any of that?
There's a bunch of that dialogue, man. And it's the thing that keeps us sane, right? If the outside world heard what we really talked about, they'd be like, man, like what's up with them, you know? But it's a way for us to debrief from what we just witnessed, right? Everything's not always the glitz and glamour. It's not always a simple fire, go put that fire out. It's not a simple, let me bandage this, hate to be a little vulgar, but sometimes there's death, right?
Of course.
And it's not a pretty death. Death is not pretty,
right?
I've seen some ugly things, and the only way to get those things out of your brain is to converse about it. And that's what we do. Sometimes we laugh about it to keep from crying. Sometimes you actually cry about it, right? It gets hard because the next call is up.
Yeah.
In a system that's large like San Antonio, there's always another call waiting. Where I ended my career as a firefighter, I was a paramedic for the city of San Antonio. That's a tough job because you have to be the person that's the knowing of all, which you are not, right? You know what you know. We have our protocols. It was an amazing system, but you do have to talk these things through because you'll have a baby die on you, right?
Oh, man.
I don't get to say, you know what? Hey, this next call is coming. I'm going to pass that one. Like some people, you can go ahead and mail it in. You're like, you know what? I'm done for the day. But we work 24 hours. That call could come in at the very start of the day. So guess what? Now I still got 23 more hours of this day to go. So how do I get over that?
Right.
I get over it with my teammates, my crewmates at the firehouse. Like, man, we'll talk about the situation. Was there anything that I could have did better? Did we do everything that we could? And that's where me as a firefighter paramedic, where I would leave it. And I have one of the best partners out there. It's one of my best friends, man. His name's Ryan Brown. He, without that guy, like, there's a lot of situations I don't know how I would have got through it, right? But that guy, everybody, if they're so lucky to have a partner like that, they can get through a career.
Yeah.
He's what kept me going because I went through some dark times where I would literally have my wife talk me into going to work because of just the stuff that you see. Right, I'm always smiling. I know you just met me 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'm not the kind of guy that's always smiling, so people wouldn't know that something was going on internally.
Right.
But it affects you. But the way you get through is conversing with your crewmates, man.
Powerful, man. Would you say that there's some versions of PTSD there for you? And
without a doubt,
yeah, and maybe not even it's like diagnosed, but for example, like I may have shared this with you when I was a kid. Down the street here, actually, right now you probably see the the building, but right in front of that building in the Orleans, I was in a bad car wreck, and we got whacked. I was 5 years old. Car hit us going 50 miles an hour, T-boned us. That's why I got this big scar on my. I talk about this, and I know that even today, like when I'm driving, and we drive a lot. I ain't driving every day part of your life, right? And I'm going through an intersection. I'm like, I'm hyper aware. Oh hell yeah. I'm okay, what's up?
Yeah.
Because I want to be on the offense. And so one would say, yeah, like I was traumatized, right? And so I know the impact of something like that. I'm wondering if that's something that you've recognized as well for yourself.
Yes.
And does it affect how you live day to day?
It does.
It does.
It does. So back when I said earlier about being 38, that's when I came to my realization. And what I mean by that is the things and the traumas that I've seen in my 19-year career.
That's a long time, man.
It is.
That's 19 years, man. That's crazy.
Expected to do 30 plus years. And the guys and gals that do that, man, I take my hat off to y'all. And that's where I felt like I was like, man, maybe I was just a little different. Hey, man, 19, almost 20 years, that was good enough for me. Just because you separate yourself from work, the switch doesn't turn off. What you witness or just experience, it stays with you. Just the same as you, like when you drive through intersections, you're like you say, you're on the offense. There's so many spots in San Antonio. As I drive past silently, I don't say this out loud to my family, right? I know that person died right there. I remember this happening there. Man, I remember this kid there's a place right by my house. There was this kid that OD'd on drugs and we couldn't revive him, right? Man. I pass that going to my house every day. Yeah. So it's something that if I'm not physically talking about it, I think about it. It's in my head, because I drive right past it every day.
Right.
Every day. So yeah, there's traumas that stick with you, but this is where I lean on my faith. This is where I lean on my family. And this is where I lean on going into doing things that you feel God has chose you to do, right? Firefighting was a path that led me to where I'm at today. Yeah. And I'm so grateful and thankful for it. But now I feel like I'm walking in my calling.
Yeah. And it's almost like a staging process, right? It's this thing happens and then this thing happens and it just build up to the next thing and then to the next thing, right? And obviously, dude, you probably wouldn't be half as decent of an entrepreneur without having had some of those experiences, right?
Without a doubt.
The training, the boot camps, the physical running into the fires themselves. I mean, that's incredible. Did you ever fear for your life?
When
you were
a couple of times.
You did, really?
Not dealing with a fire? No. I think...
never with the fire?
Not with a fire, no.
Really?
I never... And maybe I was just ignorant to the dangers I was in. Because I've been in a couple of fires where you heard what we call the emergency evacuation tones. They'll honk the horn a couple of different times to where like, hey, we need to get out of here because whatever they're seeing outside doesn't look good, right? And I'm on the inside. But being on the inside, you don't feel like you're ever really in danger. You're in there to do your job. And as a firefighter, like I said, man, we're wired differently, man. Like fires get us going, So you get in there, your job is to put the fire out, but we can't always put the fire out with our hoses, right? So we'll have to take a defensive measures. But while you're in there, you think you can do it. Like, no, hey, Cap, Chief, give me a few more minutes.
Right.
I almost got this thing.
Yeah.
I almost got this thing. But little do you know that on the outside, the whole damn building's ablaze. And if you don't get out, that could be your demise.
That's like it's almost like the literal true definition of like heroism. Yeah. It's almost like you separate from yourself.
You do.
It's like you're in this fire.
Right.
But you're not even aware that you're in it. You're just willing to do the job.
Willing to do the job, man.
Even if it takes you out.
even if you take it out.
That's unbelievable.
I'm gonna tell you, when I decided to come this path, like my best friend Brian Brown and Justin Brown, they're the reason why I became a firefighter. They come from a family of firefighters, and so they introduced me into it. And I'm like, man, that's pretty damn cool, right? But when 9/11 happened, and I watched the demise of firefighters, I questioned myself, like, could I do that? Could I go inside that building knowing I'm probably not going to come out? Man. That was my question to myself throughout my career. But I know every time the call came, I did my job. I went in the building, again, oblivious to the fact that, hey, it could have went the opposite way, but I was in there doing my job. So I think now that I'm done with that, the answer is yes. I could go in there and do the job, And on my logo today, in my business, you'll see a 343 on my logo, and that's for the fallen firefighters during 9/11. Because of that is what inspired me fully to become a firefighter.
Man.
Because like you said, the heroism, to do something with the potential of knowing there might not be no return for you. And I think that's awesome.
I've always had honor and respect for people like that because I'll be honest, like that's not me. I'm sorry. I've realized now that I have a kid, the difference in that. And so it's like, if I had to step up and, take a car, whatever that, metaphor is used, but like to be a cop, I would never.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, hey, I'm grateful for you. Hey, to be a fighter, I wouldn't do a fight fires.
Yeah.
And I would freak out. Put me on a sales call.
You're
closing a deal.
You're the guy.
You know what I'm saying? But so I said that. I say it a lot because it's like, man, there's levels of courage out there.
Oh, without a doubt, man.
It's like,
without a doubt,
life or death. But you said you did a couple times. You felt your life was in danger. What was that around?
That was around like when you go to like a gunshot victim and the perp is still there, right?
I see.
But you have a patient that you got to tend to, right? So we have the cops that'll secure, but nothing's never really fully secure, right? You don't know what that actual assailant's going to do, right? But I still have a job. And so, or when I was in the back of the guy with the heroin needle trying to stab my partner and I, there was some fear there, right? Because he has this needle that he just stuck in himself. Now, I don't know what he has, right? I don't have any kind of kit to test what kind of... And you're trying to harm me with that.
How'd you guys get him?
We subdued him, and then had to call PD to come ride with us to the hospital.
Was it like fighting Iron Man?
Oh, yeah, because when people that are on drugs, buddy, they're on another level, man. They're on another level, right? And so... I say this respectfully, like when people see certain things on the internet and cops and firefighters doing things, you're like, oh, I can't believe that they did that. You don't know the situation before that person started recording, right? I'm thankful nobody recorded us, right? Because it's either them or me. Now, we never hurt anybody, but we kept ourselves from being hurt.
Sure.
Sure. And those are a couple of times that, you feel the danger, or as little as being on the highway is where I felt some danger, because I almost got hit one time when we were operating on a car wreck. A car flew by going 90 miles an hour. If I would have stepped 1 to 2 inches to my right, I would not be sitting here having this conversation for you. So back to the PTSD. Every time I would go on a call on the highway, fearful, because I almost got taken out doing the simple thing that says closing the door on the fire truck, and this person just driving like a bat out of hell, man.
But that had nothing to do with the
had nothing to do with the actual scene.
Another
this
person
was a person
driving on the
that
highway
was not paying attention to PD, and it happens all the time. That's why we have all the lights, the cones, the vests that we wear. When you see firefighters out and cops, those light yellow vests, that's why we wear them. So that way you can see them. But people at 2, 3 in the morning that probably been out drinking, that doesn't mean anything, man. And that was around that time in the morning. We're handling the wreck. Trying to get the door closed on the back of the fire truck. It wouldn't close, so my partner and I are trying to get it down. And then this car just, it's like went by so fast you can feel
the wind,
right?
Man.
And you looking like, oh my goodness. If I would have just stepped back, just took one step back, Ron P's not here, man. Or if I am, I'm in a different form. I'm not who you see before you, you know? And so that's one thing that made me fearful as well, man. Every time you get on a call like that, always head on the swivel, like, hey, man, you got that blocked?
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
It goes back to that whole thing about, you having a bigger calling, man.
Oh yeah.
Like I really believe that.
I'm a big believer in that, man.
It's like, yo, if I dodge all those bullets, like you got me here for something, man.
For something.
And I ain't fucking around. Like I'm not gonna waste that second chance, that third chance, that I got.
Not at all.
You gotta jump on that, man.
Not at all.
I could pester you all day with fire questions, probably, but I won't do that to you because I do want to hear about some of the. I do want to hear, like, dude, I love all this because you got your wife in the studio, which is even more exciting.
Oh yeah.
But I know you just mentioned your kids. A little back, you guys want to take a trip out to New York, a little family trip.
Uh-huh.
How are you trying to raise great kids, and what are you doing to do that, based on all your life experiences?
Man, that's a good question. By leading by example, because they see more than they hear. And what I mean by that, my son Harper, when he was a little boy, when we first kind of started the business, he would watch us, right, as we're setting up the food truck, getting the stuff in. He had this little drum set, and he doesn't know what an entrepreneur is, but all he knows is when Daddy has this truck, Daddy's gonna go make some kind of something, right? And so he's like, I want to be like you, Dad. I'm gonna set my drum set up right here on the curb, and I'm gonna put a hat out. I'm gonna play so that way people can give me some tips.
That's awesome.
And this kid was only like 3-4 years old,
Wow.
and that's where I had my aha moment, is that no matter what I tell him, he's going to do what he sees me do. And I learned that from my dad. Watching him work hard for the family is what's inside of me to work hard for mine. And as long as I continue to do the right thing, my kids can't help but do the right thing. Even if they stray, God forbid,
Sure.
it's going to be embedded in them because they know what's right.
Yeah.
You know the difference between right and wrong, and so, yeah, man, that's how I'm going to try my best to live.
I love it. How old are your kids now?
I have a son Harper is 11, and my daughter Nevaeh is 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
So make sure you.
I had to give her.
Show this thing.
I told her I was going to have to give her some love, man.
Reminds me of I'm a big fan of Freddie Mercury's movie Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, yeah.
And I say Freddie Mercury as if he's the man. Obviously, the whole band Queen. Phenomenal. I mean, I'm obsessed with what they created, the music, the talent. I mean, just it's an unbelievable combination of the way they put music together. But at the end of the movie, he goes and visits after he figures himself out, right at the end before he goes and does his last. Did you see the movie?
I did.
You did? At the end, when he goes and he stops at his mom's house and his dad, and he gives his dad a hug for the first time, and they kind of love on each other. And he's like, I'll blow you a kiss, mama. And he walks out the door, and then he starts, when he gets to Live Aid, and he starts doing do, 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 do. And then he turns and he just reminded me of that.
Yeah, man. That's it, man. That's our thing, man. Every morning when we drop them off to school, she always, Mom, Dad, she looks back and she goes like this, for I love you.
That's awesome.
And she will not turn to you. Make sure you give her the I love you. And I told her, I was like, somewhere when Daddy's doing this podcast, because we're going to miss her field day tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna show you some love.
Yeah,
that was a perfect
Make
moment.
Sure you
that
put
was
a couple
it.
more up there, man.
That was it right there.
So just boom, 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 boom.
Man.
So how do you, if because you said stray, if they stray, did you use the word stray?
I did.
I think you said stray. Okay, just making sure I caught that one.
I got that from my mom. She was like, it says somewhere in the Bible. No, I'm paraphrasing here. If you raise them up in the book, if you will, and they lead astray, but they'll come back.
I love it because I think this becomes a great question. I said something about this yesterday. I think I just put up a post and I was like, man, because we had a family day yesterday. And I saw parents. I think parents were just like doing a piss poor job. Simply said. One was yelling at their kid. Like I about saw the steam coming out. You were talking about fire? I thought it was a fire in this guy's head, screaming at his kid at a store. Yeah. And then another one wasn't paying no attention to her kids on the phone the whole time. Another dude was walking around with beer in his hand. I'm like, for real? This is parenting.
This is real, yeah.
So how do you, maybe you and the wife together, how do you guys bring them back when they're straying? Like, how do you get them back to centered? Is it a conversation with them? Because I'm even asking selfishly because you guys have a head start on me, right? I always look ahead and I say you guys have many, what is that, 11 and 6, so that's 17 years collectively, to my almost 2 years. And I'm always wondering, obviously you're a faith-based man. You have a lot of values and principles and standards from being a part of the fire department for so long. You're a business guy. So when stuff starts to go this way versus this way, how do you get them back to this? And what's the approach that you take with them?
A mere conversation.
Yeah.
Simple. It's as simple as that. Having the conversation about what where we feel like you're not doing right. Let me tell you the differences between why we're doing it this way and why doing it the other way is not the right way to do it. That's it, man. Simple as that. Having a conversation. My kids, man, I'm not trying to brag on them, but they're pretty good. Sometimes my wife and I look at each other like, what are we doing to have such amazing kids?
That's awesome.
I really, to be honest with you, I don't know. You know, and I think it's maybe just by leading by example. That's the only thing that I can attest it to. Leading by example from the things that I've learned throughout my life, trying to live right, trying to be a good person, and they're just following it.
That's awesome, man.
We're teaching them how to, teach them at an early age, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, having that respect, right? Because if you can't have that level of respect for somebody that you're talking to that's older than you, oh, man, you could toss everything out the window.
Right.
Because you won't have any level of respect for people.
Yeah.
And at some point, hey, man, they may go work for somebody. You got to have respect for your boss, right? But hopefully they'll be working for Goshen Point.
I was going to say, have they?
According to Harper, he's taking over.
Is he?
Oh yeah,
hey,
he's like, hey, I'm a future CEO. You don't have to
put
see
a
a video.
succession plan in place.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. And but yeah, there's just having a conversation with them, trying to lead them right down the right path, getting them back focused on what they need to do.
I love it, man. That's amazing. So, it's not Jerry Springer or Maury, the funny old, family feuds that happen on TV. But he did share some stuff with me about you guys buying this ranch.
Yes.
And how it was, a lot more than you were expecting.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to bring that back up right now, and he's probably going to tell the story. So if you guys got to duke it out or something like that here on camera.
Nah, no
I'm cool with it. I can just get in the middle.
Maybe we'll get the ratings up. No, man.
But I think that was a great story because you talked about moving from something that wasn't expected from a decision, from a business standpoint, a financial standpoint, and then you ended up buying this 7-figure ranch that you guys now occupy, that you operate out of. So walk us back down that path, man, because I love that. Man. Yeah, I think it was great.
Again, man, I'm always lead with God first, right? Having faith, and whether you believe in or you call him God or whatever you call the universe, but having faith in something that's bigger than yourself. When we had a little catering building, thinking that was gonna be it. Things didn't go the way that we wanted them to go. We were supposed to purchase the building. That did not happen during COVID. The building price doubled to where it's like, oh wow, I can't afford that building right now, and lo and behold, my wife, her dream was always to own a venue. We didn't think we were ready for that. Surely financially, we were not ready for it. But we had a friend that planted that seed. They're like, hey, I think you guys should look into this. Us well knowing, I can't afford that. What do you mean, like, look at this? But when you are empowered with new information, now you know how to go about to go get what you want. And so once we got empowered with that new information, now we started to be able to look to see what we wanted. So as the journey kept going, once we were out of our building and we're operating out of another small building and friends helping us with their kitchens to continue to operate our building, our business, our ranch popped up, right? And we looked at it, and like you said, I won't say the number, but it was a 7-figure number. And I was like, eyes wide open, because I'm over here trying to figure out how I was going to pay for $200,000, right? And now I got this 7-figure piece of property in front of me that I know, how am I going to get here? And so all we did was, okay, I can't afford that right now, but what are the actionable steps I need to take so I can afford it? And so what we did, we just put our heads down and started working. I told my wife, every job that comes across our table, say yes. Because there's things where we're selective, like, I don't, we're not going to do that. But I was like, say yes. I was like, do you want this property? And she's like, I do. I was like, if it's still available. So we saw our property in September 2021. We didn't end up purchasing our properties till July of 2022. So almost a year later, right? And our property was still available when it came to the time for us to be in position to purchase it. Because now we were able to stack a little capital. We learned some more things of how to get some money from here, from there, to be able to put the down payment. Because you had to have a approval letter to even get onto the piece of property. So if you can't afford it, they weren't letting you through their gates. It was locked. Like you could look from the outside, you know,
but they ain't walking you around.
No, because they weren't.
Waste of
when
time.
You're playing, what they call is a jumbo loan, right? So when you're playing at a different level, people aren't wasting time, and you know this from being a big time sales guy. You know, that when you're operating at a different level, you got to know the rules of the game. And so as we started to learn the rules of the game, and we're able to get that approval, now we're able to get on the.
So what helped you get the approval?
Having the capital.
Having the
capital.
Which was a percent of the down payment?
That's correct.
Down payment which was a percent of the total
purchase price.
Of
the total purchase price,
gotcha.
Yeah. So once we had that stuff in place, now we can get onto the property and take a look around. And just because you can get it doesn't still mean the place was going to be ours. Like literally down to the wire. And so this is during still during COVID, and all the percentage rates changed. So now we're at the deadline. The day of, we're supposed to close. This is the last day. We're supposed to close. The rates changed. Now I got to come up with $50,000. I'm tapped out at this point. Like we've already put all the chips in to get this property. There is no more, right? And so, and then I'm saying this part because I want people to understand about having faith. Because when you can't see it, God can.
Hey.
And I'm like, Sherry, this is it. Like, we're not going to get this place. And I mean, she's upset. I'm upset.
You were all in it too.
Yeah, because like, this is going to be ours. Was my
we're
thing.
all
Like,
for it.
The way I am, and you know this from being an entrepreneur, you have to be a vision person. Like, you have to have the craziness to think I can do this. And then you focus your attention on doing whatever this is so you can accomplish the goal that you're trying to accomplish. And that's how I am. When I see something I want, I'm going after it. As you can see, we're here in Vegas today, right?
Yeah.
I asked you a question and now I'm here, right? And so we're at the deadline. And so thankfully we are the people we are, and we had the friends that we have. Our mortgage broker, she wrote this beautifully eloquent letter to the owner and the realtor of the property to just allow us, just give me a little grace period to try to figure out how I can come up with $50,000. He's like, I'll give you 5 days.
Okay.
All right. And my wife from her previous job happened to have the exact amount minus $2,000. Like, she got to keep $2,000, but she had the exact amount that we needed to get it. But we didn't think about that. Like, that wasn't the thought process, right? And being in the entrepreneur spirit, like, and I asked her, like, are you sure you want to do this? Because it's part of your retirement, right? She's like, yeah, we're going all in. And we went all in.
Man.
That was the amount that we needed. We put it down, and hey, man, hadn't looked back since.
Man.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
And hadn't looked back since, man. But I say all that too, even though when it's a dream of yours that you want and something that you like, you're desiring, there's still a lot of work. You know, you see all the prettiness when you're buying. But once it becomes yours, now that's when the real work starts to happen, right?
Of course.
Because something of that magnitude is going to take work to keep it looking as beautiful as it was the first day that you saw it. And it does. But I'm thankful. I'm grateful. God gives me the opportunity. Like, I used to look at things different. Like, oh, man, I got to cut the grass. Now I look at it like, I get to cut the grass, right?
Big shit.
Like, how awesome is it that the Lord allowed me to have 13 acres with these beautiful, massive oak trees that He's put in my care for the time I'm here, right? And I get to tend to this property. It's amazing, man. You know,
and that's neat, man.
Oh yeah,
just to say you have a damn ranch is cool, man.
Man, buddy, that was something I aspired to have when I was a kid. Because all my buddies, man, they you know, their families had ranches and stuff, like 1,300 acres, 2,000 acres. You know, like, so my little Texas. 13 with nothing in comparison, but it's mine. You know, I tell everybody all the time, it's the biggest 13 acres you've ever seen. You know, it's the biggest 13 acres, but you know, it is truly a blessing to have something like that, and to be able to operate my business out of something that I started just to make a little extra dollars so my wife can stay at home. We're here at the level that we're at, and we want to keep soaring from here.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What is it that you envision now as far as so you got the trucks, you've got the ranch. Where's this going in your head? What do you guys get up and get excited about every day and talk to each other about where this ends up and how this looks in, are you still 38?
No, I'm 42 now.
42 now?
42 now, man.
Man, you don't look a day over 20.
Man,
Come on now.
You know what they say, black don't crack, man. Come on. I had to say it, man. I'm sorry. I had to say it, but no.
I'm trying to think about Latin jokes, man, but I ain't got one. I got it. Next time I'm going to go home and do some research. So I got at least a couple in my back pocket,
There
man.
you go.
Some empty. My holster was empty, man. Jeez.
Yep. But
yeah, what's the vision, man? Like, obviously, if you're a vision guy.
The vision now is to work my way out of the business so the business can actually operate without me. Currently, I mean too much to my business. And that's why, I got with Steve to help me to work ourselves out of it. So that way the business can operate and we can do a little bit more things, have more time freedom. Again, being an entrepreneur, people think like, oh man, I don't want to work for this person. I want to work for myself. Well, guess what? Working for yourself is a lot harder than
way more work.
A lot harder than working for a company. But it's also a lot more rewarding if that's what you want to do.
Right.
But the goal is to work our way out of it. I would say 5-year vision is to have multiple trucks roaming San Antonio that I'm not operating, but they're out there operating. That would be pretty cool to me to see my trucks going around and I'm like, man, look at that.
Yeah, no
There's
kidding.
Goshen Point there.
Yeah,
Oh, they're over there too.
Yeah.
Oh, where are we at today? Oh, we're on the north side. And that would be pretty awesome. Other thing would be to seeing people wear our merch, like truly start to grow a following in the sense that people want to wear the Goshen Point apparel. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Buc-ee's. Have you heard of Buc-ee's?
Oh,
in Texas? Big old gas station. Like they're about to be worldwide.
Bucees.
Yes.
Right. Buc-ee's. Yeah.
So they are the inspiration for that, right? Everybody loves that little beaver. If you just see that little beaver, you know exactly what that is. Like, oh, that's Buc-ee's. And so I want the same thing for when you see our logo. Like, oh man, that's Goshen Point. Yeah, I heard them. They're in San Antonio. And I want my merch to be the same way where people love the brand so much that they want to wear my shirt proudly and be like, oh yeah, this is my Goshen Point shirt or my Goshen Point hat. So that's kind of the vision that we're having.
So I always think about food, right? I mean, I live here in Vegas. I've worked in my fair share of restaurants. I told you this. I owned a couple back in my mid-20s. I owned 3. And I think I have a decent pulse on it. What's your approach or your angle with this? Like, so, a lot of people say, oh, my food is made with love, or we got a great recipe, or we have this special, in my world, I think of it as like sort of your value proposition, right? I mean, what's your positioning or your angle
when it comes to
enter into the market that's very competitive? And, if you got pizzas, for example, you have Domino's, which is delivery. Then you have Little Caesars, which is carry out. And then you have Pizza Hut, which is sit your ass in here and have a good family time. Each different angles, right? All pizza, obviously, probably slightly made differently, and they are, but you can see what they did to try to tackle a segment of the market.
Sure.
And so for you, how do you see that part of your business? Because obviously you make great food. I'm sure you believe it, but have you thought about that part? Because I always get curious from just I always feel like the barbecue thing, man. There's just so much.
There's so many
culture and love and spirit inside that.
There is, without a doubt. So to be cliche, yes, it is with love. But where we're different, because we're caterers, right? I pay more attention to the experience you're going to have at your event, right? So not bashing anybody, but other companies, hey man, they're just going to throw on the quick little plastic mat. Have the food there and they're just going to give it to you. No big deal. I like to think that Goshen Point, we do it with a touch of elegance, paying attention to the details from my Schaefer's to having flowers that match the colors that you have in your wedding, to having a bread arrangement, right? Because it's easy to just put any old bread out there, but it's even better when you have an assortment of breads that can go paired well with the food. To how we plate the meat. I've never been classically trained, but I've watched a lot of videos. I've been YouTube certified. Hey, man. So why I transitioned that from
new education, man.
That's right, man.
That's business college 101 right there.
All the way down, man. And it's free.
Yeah.
It's free.
Let me jump in real quick. I have now realized, it took me a long time to figure out how stupid simple it is to make things work nowadays.
Oh, without a doubt.
Like you have to be an absolute idiot or a moron not to make things work.
Yeah.
Because you are just got to be the laziest person on planet Earth.
Anybody has a phone, it's at the touch of a button, man.
Just do the work.
That's it. You have
Obviously,
to do the work.
That's the hardest part. But the reality is, it's like, man, nothing. Chat GPT will now print you
We'll
out
tell
things
you everything.
you need to know. If you can just
Chat works for me. He's my employee. I pay $20 a month.
Yeah.
He is amazing.
It's unbelievable, man.
Absolutely.
If I hear excuses anymore, I'll be like, just shut up.
It's either you're going to do the work or you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it really comes down to implementation. But anyway, please, man, continue. I didn't mean to jump in.
No, man. And just
You're
just
YouTube certified.
YouTube certified, watching chefs like Chef Gordon Ramsay, right? How he handles food with care. So what I do, I try to do the same thing. I emulate what a chef that is classically trained, and I emulate that with what I do. So when it comes to slicing the brisket, there's a certain way that you do that, right? You have to run against the grain, not with, because otherwise now you'll have shredded beef instead of a nice sliced piece of meat that's going to sit well on that plate with your sides, Attention to detail is where we're different.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I was listening to something recently too that said that same thing. There's not a lot of the the one golden egg. It's more about all the other little components that make up this thing that are not as exciting or fun.
Yeah,
that make this thing what it is. Like you just said, the details.
Yeah, it's the details, man. Because and having the same experience for everybody that comes through our buffet line, right? So I always have my staff take a look from when we set up. I tell them, stand on the opposite side and look at your setup, because this is what everybody that's coming through this line, this is what they're going to look at. So from the aspect of some crumbs may be falling, well, hey, use our little cart sweeper, get the crumbs up. So for the next guest that's coming up, they have the same experience that the first person. So if you're the first person or you're the 100th person that's coming through that line, you should all experience the same level of quality from start to finish.
Yeah, it's important, man. So would you say that you have a lot of inspiration from, I know you mentioned Ramsay and those guys, like, do you draw a lot of Food Network / those types of mentalities into what you're doing? Is that where you're sourcing a lot of your progress here, or is it more business focused? It's very interesting because it's like you got to make a good product in food. So it's like, and that's fair. I guess it's just different for me nowadays, where it's like a lot of, they almost blend together, but it's almost in the world of food and creating an experience from a palate standpoint, there's quite a bit of different exercising that goes into each one of those. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I do understand what you're trying to say. So what I'll respond to that is, it depends on the hat that I'm wearing that day. Okay. Right? Some days I'm the business guy, so I'm not necessarily worried about the food, because I know the food's going to take care of itself. How do I know? Because I'm the one that cooks the meat. But
by the way, did you bring me some?
I brought you something.
Hey, okay.
I brought you something.
You let me down for half a second there. I was
something.
Like, I'm just kidding, man. I'm totally busting your chops.
But you're gonna get the real experience in Houston. So
yeah. I'm with it.
But from the business aspect of how are we going to continue to grow this business, right? And I think, one, making things more duplicable, right? Being able to come up with a process to teach somebody to be able to cook like Ron P. So that way, okay, now I can step back. I can focus more on the business itself and not just focusing on the cooking aspect. So yeah, just depend on the hat that I'm wearing.
I dig it.
Guess.
So I want to switch gears a little bit more again, because obviously I want to pay the respects to the wife of yours that has to deal with all your craziness along this way. Because I mean, my God, that's a bit outrageous. How long you guys been married?
We have been married for 12 years, but together for 16.
So you basically were there the whole time with them when the fire department.
Oh yeah,
holy cow.
It takes a special woman, or man, whomever, whichever side of the coin, right? To be with somebody that's a firefighter, right? Because just think from their perspective.
Sure.
I'm gone for 24 hours. They got to hold the fort down.
Totally.
Whether it's kids, dogs, whatever.
Just like
pops
worry.
Up.
Women worry.
Yeah. And then you have this little thing called the news, right?
Oh,
and then the cell phone, where every time there's a fire or something bad, hey, is Ron okay?
Yeah.
Oh, did you see that they had this fire over here? Is that close to the station he's at? And so I had to tell my wife, like, please don't watch the news. And she had to let everybody know, please don't call me when he's on shift, I worry enough without you calling me respectfully, you know. But yeah, it takes a special person to be with someone like that.
So I can only imagine there were some really difficult days, right? I mean, there's got to be like some extreme challenges in that. And I think I can understand this because my wife and I have not been together nearly as long, but I joke, but I'm half serious. I probably put her through way more hell, probably like a fire. I created, I stirred that sucker up, built it, and, she withheld and, she stayed with me. How do you all navigate those things along those days and those, timelines of life and keep continuing to march forward and overcome? And I don't want you to answer faith because I know that's probably baked into this in general, but, the relationship situation is very challenging for a lot of people, right? And they're trying to figure out how to make it better, improve it, stay with somebody. And does it always happen that way? No, maybe you got to go through 100 frogs to find your prince or whatever that is type of thing. But what's the recipe that you guys followed or used or leveraged along, whether it's in the firefighting world? Because I think it's even in business now, right?
Yeah, even in business.
Being in business together, doing all this great things.
Yeah.
What is that?
So, like in the business world, I'll start there and I'll work my way backwards. So now that she's been used to being with me, gone every third day, this is the first time in our career or our relationship, I'm home every day. So that was a big difference, right? It's truly learning one another from that standpoint because, hey, I can get on your nerves, but she's like, one more day, he's going to be gone for 24. So it's easy. You know how they say the absence makes the heart grow fonder? Yeah. It's easy to grow fond because, like, all right, we're gone for 24.
Right.
Whatever you may have argued about that day before, like, I miss you now, right? That's not the case now anymore. Like, I'm there.
Now it's like, get your ass out again.
Yeah, like, go around the block. Take a lap. No. The way that we get through it, it's strictly communication. Communication and building in some mommy-daddy time, right? Because... Meaning
you two.
Us two. Without a doubt. Like... Just simple as her being here today, right?
Yeah.
She could have stayed at home with her kids, but I have a lovely family that helps us out with our kids, and she's like, "I'm gonna come with you." I was like, "Awesome," because I want you to come with me.
That's great.
But simple things like that, turning a business trip to a quick mommy daddy getaway, right? So after the show's over, we'll go have us a good evening, have a good dinner, whatnot, and then back to work, But communication is key. Even when you're mad at one another, I might say it madly, I love you. But I'm going to tell you I love you before I go to bed. And she'll tell me, Mr. Patterson, did you give me a kiss? I'm like, did you kiss me? Even if you're mad. Why? Because there's no promise till tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of people that, going back to being a firefighter, where I get a call, well, he just went to sleep, right? Nothing's promised to us. Right. And so I want to make sure even if I'm mad, I'm not going to go to bed without telling the person I love that's giving me a lot, I love you. I'm mad at you, but I love you.
Tell me. I get it, and I just want to hear you say, when you say giving me a lot, expand on that.
Giving me a lot. She is my yin to my yang, and allowing me to be me. Right? I have these, and this for being an entrepreneur, you always have these ideas, right? She is the person that's always behind me. Okay, Mr. Patterson, if you think so, I mean, we'll try it. But she also knows when to bring the reins in. And I'm going to give you a quick example. Back right before COVID happened in 2019, there was a building where I thought we were ready to take a leap to go from food truckers to being a restaurant. I had some partners that were ready to invest into the company. We were going to start this restaurant. I had the numbers. I thought, like, man, this is gonna be it. This is our next transition. This is our next step. I shared this information with Sherry, and she's like, this was the one time where she told me no. I was livid because I'm like, she told me no. Like, she's normally on my team. Like, okay, like, if you want to try it, but we were gonna go from paying our little $1,200 a month in our catering building to $12,000 a month.
Wow!
So 10 times the amount, right?
Jump.
So that's a big jump. I always feel like we can do it. You can't ever tell me that we can't. Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna show you that we can. And her telling us no is what saved our company.
Wow!
Because 2 months later, COVID hit. Could you
Otherwise,
imagine if I
won for $12,000?
Yeah. Bye-bye Goshen Point. There's no such thing anymore. It was just something that I created, some years before. But because of her having the wherewithal and the foresight to be like, something told her spirit, like, nah, I don't think this is a good idea, even though I was upset about it. But I'm so thankful that she had the foresight to say no, to tell the guy that's always like, I'm always going full steam ahead, to say no. Like,
but how do you, I love it. Because, and again, I always draw the question from, so how do you accept it and let it be that as the decision? Because if you're the guy, it's always like, go. You could have easily been like, pardon me, fuck off.
Yeah, I'm doing this anyway.
Mm-hmm. And then you go, but something came over you, or you guys talked about it, or there's an actual like tactical or process involved in that where you're like, I'll listen to you on this one, right?
That little voice that tells you something inside you, when you two know that, like, maybe we shouldn't. When she said it audibly, saying no, that little voice inside me that told me, like, maybe I shouldn't do it. And then I had to go to work. I was gone for 24. So having that separation and having to actually think about it, that's where it gave me the acceptance. Now, it was a hard pill to swallow because I still wanted to do it. But I was like, all right, I'll let this one ride. But there's going to be another. There's going to be another. And then that beautiful thing, COVID-19, happened. And I was thankful that I listened this go around. And so now what it's done for me is like, hey, if something's telling my wife something and I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum, all right, well, let's converse about why are you saying no and I'm saying yes? It opened up the conversation to where, hey, man, it's not always a good thing to just keep being a bull in the china shop, you know?
No doubt.
Yeah.
Is there ever parts, as I always like, we optimize a lot in our family for just constant growth, right? It's like never ending. And obviously, with growth, there's always a challenge because you're just constantly leveling up. Like there's no settling. I won't let it happen. And when you got a partner that's like, fuck, more, you're like, that's where we're going.
Yeah.
So you better buckle up, lady, because it ain't going to stop.
This train's moving. Either you're on board or you're not.
That's right. It's departing and we ain't slowing down.
Yeah.
So how do you guys have confrontation, right? Like how do you, and I know you said communication, but, and maybe, there's that I love you part, don't go to bed mad and all that stuff. But is there protocols that you guys have in place as a family, like from a understanding standpoint where you don't do this, you try this, or how do you deal with some of those most heated moments? And I get communication, right? I mean, you communicate, but it's like sometimes there could be some other recipes in there.
Yeah. It's simple. Take a walk. You got 13 acres. Take a walk. I'm going to the barn. It's that simple. Yeah. Like and it doesn't happen often, but it does happen, right? Because now I'm with her every day.
Right.
There's some heated situations where it's like, you know what? I'm going to go take a walk. I'm going to go out this way. And give yourself some time to think. That's truly how we do it. And I know, again, it sounds so cliche, just communication, but
simple works, man.
But simple works. That's what works for us, man. And in our family, it's very, and I've said it throughout this whole time, it's faith-based, man. I talk to God. Like, I'll go take a walk. I pray about it. Okay. Sometimes it takes 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes an hour or more, before we can converse at a level where we're listening to one another. We never get to a place where we don't do shouting. Like, I don't believe in doing all that. Like, we can talk like civilized people. But there is that, like, okay, I don't want to talk right now. I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I've learned that recently. I was like, I'm trying to fix problems now.
Yeah.
Let's go.
No, see, that's my wife. She wants to fix this all the problem now. No, because I'm mad. I don't want to talk to you when I'm mad.
Yeah.
Because I love you. I don't want to talk to you when I'm mad. Because when I'm mad, I want to rip somebody's head off, right? I don't want to talk to you right now. I'm going to go take a walk. And then once I'm not mad anymore, then we can have a conversation.
Talk. Yeah. I come down.
Yeah.
Off my
then we'll solve whatever the silly little problem is. And again, in the end of the day, when you're mad about something, is it really worth being mad about? Because when this is all said and done, you'll look back, you'll be like, man, that was stupid.
I I said something recently about kids for me have helped me shine two mirrors back on myself. One is the kid is just living this life, enjoying doing things. They're just evolving, but it creates so much new experience for a parent. And you're like, you're tested moment to moment to moment.
Without a doubt.
And in the early days, I remember when we first had Lincoln in the hospital, I swear it was day 2. We were in the bed in the room overnight. And I said, he started crying like a madman. I'm like, I look at my wife, now wife, she's then, I don't think we got married then. No, we were engaged then. And I said, I can't do this. That's literally what I said. I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
It was like one night of crying. I'm like, she's like, oh, honey,
this is just the beginning.
Yeah, just the beginning. And then, I don't know, several months later, I realized whenever he would cry, my reaction, it was visceral. It was like, and responsibly, I use this as points for people to learn where a mom feels differently when their kids cry because it's more nature.
Yeah.
It's nature.
Yeah.
For me, it wasn't nature. It was my son, but I still had so much junk going on in my head where it was like, I got so angry and I was like, wow. So when he started crying, I'd had to start self-talking and calm myself down, And I felt it over the weeks and then the months gradually start to subside. Because when it first happened, it was like nails to a chalkboard and I couldn't control it, man. I was like losing myself. And it's fascinating. So I'm saying that because this like mirror thing about that anger comment that you make for me was a reflection on, because if we have a standard and a value of us always being on the grow, hence the title of the show, then if I'm looking back at this mirror when my kid's doing something that I don't agree with and I'm getting mad, for example, oh, that's me learning that I need to fix something.
Right.
Because it's not him, that's me, man. I got some stuff in here, right? Then I got to go look in the man in the mirror, the main mirror, and say, dude, hey, what's up, man?
Yeah.
Right? So that's great that you are able to control that. I think that's a place like a lot of people need to get to. It's not easy controlling your emotions, man.
It's not. And you want to know where it came from? Being a firefighter.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to control your emotions in order to get the job done, right? That's why I'm able to, hey, I need to walk away. And then I'm going to come back.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the job's not going to get done.
Right.
And for us, like when we had our kids, man, that was simple. Like, because I deal with crying grown folks and having to wipe their butts. Like, it's easy to wipe my own child's butt. He's crying, hey, no big deal. Because he belongs to me. This is easy, so. But yeah, learning that as from being a firefighter, being able to control those emotions because you feel an array of emotions from happiness, sadness, anger, all that good stuff. And it transitions into my life now.
Totally.
Yeah.
But look, man, this fire's been burning really good in here, man.
Yeah, man.
Putting some water on it because we're going to start to bring it down a little bit so we can get out of here in just a few minutes. What, if anything, because obviously you're a man of many abilities, characteristics, skill sets, thoughts, great life experiences. Is there anything that you have on your heart that you'd like to share that you think is important, that, your go-to mentality or something that I wasn't able to, dance around to get you to talk about it at all yet? And then I'll ask you one final question, man, and then we'll get up out of here so you guys can go enjoy Vegas.
Oh, yeah. That sounds good, man. What I would tell the viewers and the listeners is to follow what that inner voice is telling you. And do not be afraid to step into what you feel that inner voice is saying. Just on the other side of fear is everything that you're looking for. That the joy that you'll get from whatever that is that's like just tugging at your heartstrings on the internal you. Follow that. And it's not necessarily always going to be something that is going to bring you some monetary value. It could be something as simple as how, I don't feel right wearing this style of clothing. I feel more happy when I got my Vegas jacket on.
Come
right?
on now.
It looks good. And so be your authentic you. I feel like now in my life where I'm at now, I can actually be Ron P, right? Stepping into doing what I'm doing now, I actually get to be me, man, full time. I'm not splitting my time with firefighter Ron P and business Ron P.
Mm.
I'm just Ron P now, so listen to that inner you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I think that's powerful too.
Yeah,
I think
man.
that the graveyard of identities that could have been
Oh, yeah.
is full
Without a doubt.
of people that never got to fully realize who they were
Yeah.
and what they could
Yeah.
have become.
Yeah.
Right. And I know people talk about the dream graveyard and all that stuff, but it's like that person that you never had a chance to meet because you were just scared.
Yeah. Societal pressures and family pressures tell you, and they don't do it because of, they don't think you can do it. It's more out of a fear base because they don't want to see you fail.
Mm-hmm.
But failing is what get us to where you're at, right?
Exactly.
I got to fail so I can
That's right.
I can learn from this so I can grow from it as well. And, man, you have to do it. If it's calling you, man, you got to get in there, man.
You got to get into it.
You got to get in there.
I'm with it. All right, brother. What's your meaning of or definition of, or what would you say if I asked you, what does it mean when I say always on the grow?
Always on the grow, man. What that means to me is this life is a lifelong learning journey, right? As an entrepreneur, right, we always have a finish line. But guess what? That finish line, you're never going to get there. And if you're okay with not getting to that finish line as a entrepreneur, then this is the life that you want.
Yeah.
Right? Because as soon as you get to that one, right, I thought once I bought that ranch, I'm like, man, the pearly gates were opening up. Everything is happening. Okay, so now we have a new challenge.
Yeah,
right?
You sure do.
So that finish line is constantly moving, man. And you have to constantly evolve with yourself. And that's what I'm finding out about myself is that I got to become the future me in order to accomplish or get closer to the finish line that's before me now.
That's right.
Yeah.
I love that reference, man. I like the finish line thing. That's well said. I always get excited to hear those answers because I'm like, oh, what's he going to say? What's he going to say? I love it. Brother, man, I mean, I knew it. I'm so glad that you are who you are, that you asked about this and wanting to make it happen. And then, just sitting down. I vibe with people really well.
Yeah, man. I felt it from when first when I walked in, you're like, I like that jacket. Because I knew you had style because I was looking at your jacket, right? And you gave me that compliment. And I was like, I like this guy already.
We were off. We hit it off.
Already.
Sorry, we hit it off right away. You know what I'm saying?
I like that guy already.
Yeah. And then we had a good dinner together and then another day and then it was podcast time, man.
Yeah,
and
man.
so here we are. And then you're doing your thing, man. So I'm grateful for that, man. I'm glad that you came out here to come out and share your story, your journey, brother. I knew it would be great and I knew what you would have to say would add a lot of value. Look, I hear things all the time doing these. Yeah. Selfishly, I like to do them because I also learn.
Sure.
Right? I mean, there's so many perspectives. I am a big fan of finding new perspectives to help me look at things that I looked at previously that haven't helped me flip the narrative on that. And when I hear a new perspective around something similar, it changes my perspective to help me get better faster.
Yeah.
You catch what I just said?
I did, man.
I said that fast.
Yes, you
man.
did.
Holy moly, man.
I think I caught the tail end. I caught the tail end on that one.
Go back and listen to that again. But man, I'm happy that you were able to come out, brother.
Grateful,
so
man, thank you.
Where can we find you at?
Man, you guys can find me anywhere on the internet at Goshen, and that's GO''SHEN Point Barbecue. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we're getting ready to start hitting the TikTok because that's where everybody's at. But the Facebook and Instagram is where you can find us most, or go to our website, www.gpbbq.com.
Come on now. And if they're in San Antonio, they better come get some.
Man, if you're in San Antonio or in the surrounding area, you better come see your man, Ron P.
Hey, man. You better say, hey, you better bring the best barbecue.
Come on, man.
That's right.
Come on.
Hey, brother. Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate it, man.
Thanks for coming down.
Likewise.
All right, champ.
Thanks, man.
Bye.